With Tesla's demand skyrocketing, searches for buy Tesla reaching unprecedented peaks, tax credits and discounts fully available, and updated models freshly launching, there's never been a more perfect time to consider buying a Tesla. And as someone that has owned one for years at this point, let's discuss 7, I would say, pretty essential steps that you should take prior to buying a Tesla to make sure it's the right fit for you, along with a bonus step at the end that will just straight up save you money. Step 1, because I just mentioned saving money, do you qualify for the tax credit and or multiple tax credits? The big one being the federal tax credit, which is $7,500 for all Teslas currently that qualify. This is a point of sale credit that is taken right off the purchase price. Now, I said credits, plural, because, well, there's also state credits. Tesla has a really good page that I'll link below that actually shows you if your state has any of these incentives, along with links to corresponding official web pages for further information. For example, if you're a Colorado or would it be Chloridian, Coloradoan, whatever, you can get upwards of like $4,000. But if you're a Kentucky resident like me, you get nothing. Literally nothing. And then there's the used EV tax credit, which is $4,000, but the car needs to be under $25,000, I think at least 2 years old. And yeah, I'll have links below so you can further look into it to see if that's something that you may qualify for. And while we're on the topic of saving money, if you are taking advantage of the insane inventory deals right now on Legacy Model Ys, apparently they're actually selling out, like you just can't get them anymore. Test Stuff has you covered with insane deals of our own, 20% off everything for Legacy Ys. All-weather floor mats, organizers, screen protectors, everything's got to go. And once it's gone, it's gone. We're making room for new Model Y accessories. I'll have everything linked down below. No code needed. Insurance pricing is up next because you would not believe the amount of times I've heard, well, everything made financial sense until I checked and saw how much insurance was. Which, my theory as to why you hear so many people say this when it comes to buying a Tesla, is because owning an EV allows people to go slightly above their normal purchasing power when it comes to automotive vehicles, simply due to the almost non-existent running costs. So they're just insuring a more expensive vehicle than what they're normally used to. Also, auto insurance as a whole has just been on the rise for everyone. So it's not an EV or Tesla specific thing. Does it being an EV or Tesla slightly increase prices? Yeah, probably, but it's not the only reason. Also, insurance can vary depending on a number of factors: age, location, driving history, what you had for breakfast. People like hard numbers. I'm 26, clean record, bundling a house and one other non-EV, and I pay almost $200 per month for a 2024 Model 3 Performance with maximum coverage, so $250, $500, $250. My only real advice is to shop around and don't get state minimums. The difference between good coverage and bad coverage really isn't that much for me. I think it was like $15 extra for almost 10x the coverage. If you want to save money, just up your deductible to the max or whatever your bank that has your loan will allow. This will more than likely offset the price of the better coverage anyway. And if you are someone with like a $0 deductible and you run to your insurance for everything, then you're more than likely just going to get dropped. So yeah, it's kind of like a double-edged sword. You might as well have a big deductible and save some money. Moral of the story, check insurance prices before you place your order and check multiple different places, as some places just seemingly for no reason have like criminally high prices. Step 3, you need to actually look at your electricity bill. If you're like me, prior to owning an EV, you never really paid attention to your electric bill, except in the winter when it would just randomly double, if not triple. But if you're getting an EV, you need to be somewhat prepared with an idea of how much your bill will increase by. Most electric bills are broken up into 2 expenses: a base daily fee, which doesn't change, and a kilowatt hour usage fee, which does change based on how many kilowatt hours you use. You're looking at the price per kilowatt hour. From there, you can do some simple napkin math with how many miles you drive per month, your car's kilowatt hour battery capacity, and efficiency. For me, this would look something like 1,000 miles driven per month, an 82 kilowatt hour battery pack, and a 2024 Model 3 Performance. Yes, the entirety of the pack is not usable, but just for simplicity's sake. In the summer, I'll average around 250 watt hours per mile. In the winter, it's around 320 watt hours per mile. There's 1,000 watt hours and a kilowatt hour, so just divide it up. I'm getting like around 3, maybe 4 miles per kilowatt hour. Underestimating at 3 miles per kilowatt hour, I'm looking at roughly 245 miles per charge, which actually does line up with the range test I did around the time when I first got my car. So a little over 4 full charges will get me through an entire month, or around 330 kilowatt hours. And as I pay around 7 cents per kilowatt hour, that's a little over 20 bucks. 23, I tend to just round up to 30. Now, most people will do something like this and get a number that they're actually very happy with, especially when you do compare it to gas. But there's actually one other thing you can do that could potentially make it even cheaper. See if your electric company offers a time of day rate, or even better, an EV charging plan. EV charging plans aren't widely available, but in places you can get them, it's normally a flat fee per month for unlimited charging at night. In Texas, I believe you can get something like this if you get Tesla's like specific electric plan, where like Tesla is your electricity provider, and it's around $15 per month, which is crazy cheap. For the time of day plan, your kilowatt hour price is split into 2 different prices: on peak, which is higher, and off peak, which is lower. Almost every time of day plan I've seen includes off peak at night, which is normally the time when your car is being charged. But as this affects everything in your household, not just your car, this also means that you can't do stuff like cook dinner if you need to use a stove, or, do laundry. I mean, you could, it'll just be much more expensive. Like I said, just see if it's something that can work for you. Step 4 is home charging install price and your level 2 options. You're going to need to call around to different places in your area to see how much having a charger installed is going to cost. Typically, if you're going the plug route, like a 1450, it's going to be cheaper versus something like a Tesla wall connector. That being both the install price and price for the mobile charger versus the wall connector. But there are trade-offs, like slower charging speeds, can't put it outside, and, well, how it looks. It's a good idea, if you don't know what you're looking at, to have an electrician come out prior to putting your order in and kind of just make sure that your home can handle having an EV charger installed without needing to upgrade your entire house, essentially. Also, not to mention, they can give you a rough estimate on what that charger being installed will cost you, as well it does vary on location. In terms of options, like I mentioned, you can get a plug installed if you're trying to save money, and as long as it can do 7 to 8 amps, it'll be plenty for most people, as well, 7 to 8 amps over the course of an 8-hour period will easily take someone from 0 to 80%. So even if you are using your car's entire battery during your commute during the day, you're not going to have a problem recharging. If you do want a nice charging station, there are third-party options if you don't want to go down the Tesla wall connector route. But if I'm being honest, assuming that you're not getting some crazy incentive from your electric company, which is a real thing for getting like a specifically branded home charger, then I would just recommend getting the Tesla wall connector. It can be daisy chained if you get more Tesla vehicles in the future. It connects into the Tesla app. If you get the one with the J1772 adapter, which I believe is like $150 more, it can be used with power sharing should you ever buy the Dorito truck or Tesla unlocks it for other vehicles. Can you tell I just bought 2 Tesla wall connectors for a new home charging setup? To put it into perspective, I get at least 2 or 3 emails like per month asking me to review a home charging station that they will pay for the install, send it for free. I get to keep it, and I still spent my own, well, it was Tesla credits, but still on the Tesla wall connector. Okay, I know we've been talking home charging and pricing, but what if you don't have home charging? If you're unable to charge at home, the next best thing will be work charging, which you probably already know if your work has or not. If they do, then that's great, as it's normally free and level 2, but what if your work doesn't? Well, you still may have options in the form of level 2 chargers around your work. It wasn't for work, but I used to commute to class a few years ago and could either park in the parking garage, which was like a minute away from where I needed to be, or 5 minutes down the street for free level 2 charging. And as long as it wasn't projected to like pour down rain, I'd almost always choose the charger, as it would not only recoup my drive there, but my drive back. Now, when it comes to finding these level 2 chargers, you can view them in the Tesla via the like charging icons if you just select the 2 lightning bolts. But assuming you're doing this before you have your Tesla, you can use apps like PlugShare to show you chargers around you or where you work. There's also other apps like ChargePoint, though ChargePoint is like an actual charging service, but nonetheless, you can kind of just take your pick at whatever app you want that'll show you where the chargers are. I would recommend checking on the chargers around the time that you would typically get to work to make sure that, there isn't someone else doing the exact same thing you plan planned on doing and they'd be full anyway. If it is a 5 to 10 minute walk from the charger, maybe park close to the charger one day and walk into where you work just to see if you're okay with doing that. If the answer is no to all the above and you still want to buy a Tesla, well then you're going to need to rely on DC fast charging or the Supercharger network. A few things to know right off the bat, and actually as long as you're okay with these two things, then yeah, you can make it work, especially if you're in the States, because there's kind of superchargers everywhere. At least most people are within like 30 minutes of a supercharger. First is charging time. No matter how you slice it, you're gonna be sitting around waiting. I'm sure you've heard the whole, oh, but it takes an hour to charge from like the anti-EV crowd. And while with context, that statement is pretty false. Most people charge at home. And if you are supercharging, you're more than likely on a road trip. So you're not charging to 100%, you're charging at the lower end of your battery where you charge faster. If you are treating superchargers like a gas station where you're rolling in with 10 to 15% and charging all the way up to 100%, then, driving your commutes for a few days, coming back 2-3 days later and doing it again, then yeah, that our statement is actually pretty accurate. But even then, there are still things that you can do to shorten the time. The biggest one being just don't charge to 100%, charge up to 80%. You'll need to supercharge more often, but this will save you a ton of time. 0 to 40% is extremely fast, like 15 minutes, if that. 40 to 60 is still fast, 60 to 80 is slowing down, and 80 to 100 is like a snail's pace. Seriously, the time it takes you to go from 80 to 100% is normally longer than what it takes you to go from 0 to 80%. So as long as you're fine with waiting, then number 2, the price. You're not really going to save that much money over gas when you break it down to a dollars per mile way, at least not as much as you would with the average home charging price, assuming you don't have some sort of free supercharging promo like what they're doing with the Cybertruck S and X at the time of this video. So as long as you're good with the waiting and you're good with the price, then yeah, you totally can use the supercharging network as like your only form of charging. Now on to step 7. Well, you're already doing it. Watch YouTube videos. And it doesn't even have to be my videos. It can literally be anyone. Tesla used to have pretty much 0 new owner guides. I think they had a video showing you how to unlock the car and that's about it. They have gotten a lot better, but even still, who's going to trust the company selling you the product to be honest about how good and convenient said product is? I mean, I do think Tesla is being honest, but it's pretty normal to not trust that as a consumer. And that's where videos like this from real owners come in. I have an average commute of like 40 miles with home charging. And if that's pretty similar to you, then the experiences that I share via these videos are gonna be pretty relatable and what you'll more than likely experience. But if you're someone with a crazy long commute and no home charging, you will find other creators here on YouTube that will be able to give you a more realistic expectation versus what I can, because well, I just don't have experience with that. Any and every question or hypothetical problem that you may have has been answered somewhere here on YouTube by someone in a similar situation as you. Now, as for that bonus I mentioned that can just straight up save you money, wait for special deals. This includes 0% APR deals, boosted referrals, or just referrals in general, free supercharging. You should be getting some sort of bonus for buying, assuming it's not a newly released model. For example, the 0% APR on the Model 3 is about to end, I believe on the 31st of this month, but I guarantee it'll come back. Same with 0% coming to the new Model Y, it'll eventually happen. Speaking of referrals, mine are all used up, but I'm sure someone in the comments section will gladly give you their referral if you just ask. There's also military discounts. Like I said, you should not be buying a Tesla assuming it's not like a newly released one, like, the new launch editions, assuming when the new Model Y Performance comes out, the first few months that's out, I probably won't have anything special on it. But assuming it's something that's been around for a little bit, you should be getting something on top of the car. This isn't 2022 anymore where Tesla just can't keep up with demand. They're scaling, they're producing a ton of vehicles, and they want to incentivize you to purchase their vehicles. If you can think of anything else that people should know before buying, comment section. Like I said, you may even find people looking for referrals. If you are new around here and you want to see more Tesla related stuff in your YouTube feed, then feel free to subscribe, and I will see you all in the next one.